Musician is the best way to learn, practice, and master the guitar. Just grab your acoustic or electric and play along. Musician listens to you play and gives instant feedback on accuracy and timing. Fun and addictive gameplay tracks your progress and keeps you motivated. Whether you're
Hello to you. So these aren't going to really, they're not going to compete with the 34-inch scale bass by no means. These are a mini, and just like on the mini guitars, they sacrifice a little, but they make up for it in fun. They're really just really cool, and the whole thing is taken off really well, man. A lot of people are getting involved in it. It's a cool little pastime, all right? So listen, it's a cool little pastime. So it isn't meant to, it's meant to make yourself. The whole competitive part of it was to kind of encourage people to do it and to let them know it wasn't that hard to do. And it's very doable, man. They're popping up everywhere now. And so it gives you your own. Ultimately, people are like, well, what do you get for winning? Well, you're not going to win. You're going to win by having your own bass now. You're going to get your own little mini bass. And that's how that works. I'm Kit Bohannon, by the way. This is my whole concept of doing this thing. And I did my very first one. The very first one I did, I took a P-bass body and I cut it down. I just basically took almost an inch off a round, and most guitars are 13 inches from this side. So I just made this mini bass body, and then I attached the guitar neck and shimmed up the sides because the P bass was already carved into it. And so I tried it that way. And that bass worked out really well for a long time. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. I got a ton of these bodies laying around, because what I would do is I'd cut a lot of different bodies, and get them all cool. And then I would end up with this being a spare body, right? Like I would take these guitars and then I would cut one out of like burl maple or cut one, and then I would use the neck and some of the parts, and I would just create kind of my own guitar style or my own body style. So once I made the one bass with the P bass body and the guitar neck, and it worked well, I said, well, fuck. I thought about these pick guards, which are the single humbucker pickups, which they've used. You see them in the Eddie Van Halen Strats, and so I thought, well, God, if I get one of those and I could carve out underneath it, and then the G&L pickup, then I could probably get one to do it with just the bass, just the whole guitar without ever removing the neck and just turn the guitar into a bass. Success. So my first one I made was the one where I figured out the clerks. Tolerances are everything. That's the amount of space that you end up here when you pass by the 21st fret. This is a jazz bridge and a cheap one. I get this bridge for about 11 bucks. Pickup $11, bridge $11, $6 for these. I use the electronics, so I use the K500 pots in this, which means it probably could sound better if I used 250K. And as far as the tuners go, be really careful with the tuners. I can't stress that enough. When you go to drill them out, stage up to where you need to end up. And I've been really specific about not giving you sizes to drill because I don't want you coming at me going, hey, you said it was this size. So, don't do it. Figure out what size they send you because the plating is different, different mills. So you want to make sure you get the right one. Do not go at it. Don't say, oh, this is a 3/4 inch hole and just dive in there at the 3/4 inch. Don't do it. You'll crack the head. And so you got to slowly stage up to it, just trimming a little bit off on every drill bit, whatever it takes. Even if you got to file them out, fuck it. If you force a big drill bit in there, the drill's going to grab and it's going to go through that hole and crack your headstock. I've done it. I've done it twice. And so the big key there is to step up to that, and then in the end, you're probably going to be like, God, it almost fits. Stop. Use your round file and make it fit nice and snug because they're only as good as you can get your tuners in there solid. And you'll notice there's plenty of room. They're not much bigger than the guitar ones that are in here, but they are a little bit. And so you do have to, get that and sorted out. Everything else is the same. I had to shim this neck with a business card. So I wanted to shim it a little bit more, but as you see, the action is what I call doable. It's really smooth. As a matter of fact, if I was this is so I come to you on this Motu here, this Motu 828. And so if I'm punching over the peaks on this thing, it will kick in compression. So you're hearing the compression based on that. And that's good. Otherwise, it would be distorted. And so in closing, I'm going to play this up a little bit. But these are cool, man. They are very cool. And this one's probably already sold. The only thing I have left to do with this is I ordered the satin black plate that matches the pick guard to go over the back. And then this one's done. And I'm in it about 5 to 6 hours. But how cool is that? I paid $55 for the guitar. All the parts came up to $95. So it was $150 even for the supplies to do it. And then here I am, here I am with a neat little mini bass that'll last forever. I mean, it's every bit as good as any guitar. Now, a lot of people are thinking, oh my God, you're putting these big cables on this poor little guitar neck. No, less tension, 4 strings are less tension than 6. So it actually, the neck gets more comfortable, and so it doesn't affect it in that way. The intonation is perfect. It doesn't matter what everybody goes, well, how's the intonation? It's the same as if it was a guitar string. It don't matter the gauge. You're shortening the scale of the string and then hitting it to make the string make the note, right? So it has no effect on intonation. I do say this is the way your bridge should go in there properly. This has got perfect intonation. So this is the way your bridge should look. There should be a little gap down here from the opening of the whammy bar. And then it should look just like a normal P bass or J bass intonation. I've got a digital I've got a really cool pitch black chord tuner, for doing, and it's got my, my fine tuning and stuff. So I got this thing pretty fine tuned. I'm still tapping here. I got to figure out, I got a high fret somewhere that's affecting the D12. I kept the same nut on here. This is the nut that came on the guitar. All I did was just leveled it out. Put the E in the E slot, put the G in the E slot of the guitar slot, and then just level the two the best you can in there, and use a file and just carve a little saddle for it in there, and that's that easy. They work good for slap. I just can't slap bass. I just never have learned how to do that properly. But this is a very cool bass. So it was a Kona guitar. I'm beyond putting my own logos on them. I didn't build them. And so I try to just leave the same logo unless you get like this one. My girlfriend messed up on ordering my parts for hers and had them come to her house, which she has a neat little note that says, "Do not leave packages." So I pushed this one out another couple days before I get the parts for it. But this is what you start with. And on these ones, which you'll find most of them are done, it's rare to find one that's the two left, two right tuners, but those are cool. I like those because you don't need string tensioners. See the pitch on the neck here? So you don't have to use string tensioners. It'll, it's just nice. Well, that's not the case with these. These you have to use string tensioners because you'll see there isn't near as much of a pitch. And so you'll fall out of the hole here by the time you get up here. It's very important that you mount this neck, even if you have to drill a pilot hole through it, and mount it solid before you start drilling these out. You'll crack these, man. You will. And so what I do is I do 1, 3, and 4. And then you can dowel these out to where you don't see them and then cover it, whatever you want to do, but I just leave them open because I think the characteristics of what we're doing here, which is converting a guitar into a bass, is very cool. This guitar right here had a good tolerance, and so I end up with pretty good tolerances. This neck is a little bit narrower. And so sometimes you have to take the bridge and shave off some of the sides of the saddles. You know what I mean? Shave them off to where it narrows in. And I mean, it's a customized bass and guitar, but there's a way to get through every little trump you might have. This is the next one I'm doing. Now I ordered a bone. They make a bone for this size guitar that's 4. It's all pre-cut. So I'll be pulling this bone. The only reason I don't do these bigger ones here is because you got to glue them in and shit. And I just like the factory glued one. And so if I can get away with keeping those, the big fat ones. But these slide-ins, they make one for it that's a 4-string. Boom, done. No bullshit about it. But this will be the next one. This one will have a tortoise shell red pickguard, all chrome parts. It'll be a deluxe, so it'll have the 3 like you see in John Dean's. John Dean has one he's going with the original pickguard. See him replace those single coils with jazz pickups. He's going to have to widen them out a little bit, and you use their front pinch cutters. You can pick them up from Ace Hardware or whatever. And you can get in there and just kind of clip that pickup, or you can use a a like a router or a drill with a little sander head on and just sand away that pick guard to where it's in there. Undoubtedly, I'm going to have to multi-tool a bigger hole here to fit the pickup. So I'll probably trim a little bit off here. A multi-tool is a blade that just looks, it's on a straight machine. In the blade, you just set it where you want it, turn it on, and it'll cut all the way through that wood, and then you can gap it. It don't matter because this is all going to be covered with pick guards. So there's a lot of ugly shit that has to happen down here sometimes to get it, to get it to function. What I look for is all wood. Like this guitar is all wood. It's not plywood. Don't use plywood. These are so I paid $45 for this guitar. Nice straight neck, very little use on the frets. The frets are like new. I look for those, and there's a million of them out there. They're overproduced massively. And so I'm going to do a red tortoiseshell. I'm doing the old chrome top. They're a bass pickup they make, but they're a chrome top, and they look like, like a Les Paul pickup. And those will be going in here. I'll be running 2 of those, and they're split coiled. So I'll be running the 5-stage switch with those, and I'll get all the staging out of those. If I don't, I'll have a 3-stage, which will give you either or, and then the center, and then it'll have a kill switch on it. So you can go all the way down or all the way up, depending on what direction you put it in there, and have a lockout where it just shuts the guitar off. And sometimes that happens. I've done that before, and it works well. But I just wanted to inform you of a few things. It seems like people are catching on to it, and guitars are getting built. Now, remember, the most important part to making these sound good is that you line those sensors up over the top of these, under these strings. You'll only sound as good as you level those out to that. So it's got to kind of look like you see here. It's got to go over the top of those sensors. So if you're using a 6-string pickup, you're going to notice that you'll have some fallouts. In other words, your A string might sound really strong, and you go to your D, and you'll notice it's not really leveled over the top of the sensor, and so it's going to fall out. In other words, it's going to be quieter than the other strings, and you're not going to get what you want out of the instrument. This pickup's $11. You can get jazz pickups for like $8. I mean, or you can spend up to, $250 on them. You can do whatever you want. I try to tell people, stay cheap for your first one, just so you can put it together and see how it works. If you want to build a really nice one, build a cheap one first. And then once you get that down, then go ahead and invest in the big parts and use the bridge like that John Dean used on his. That bridge is called the High Mass Kick-Ass Bridge, and it's made by Hipshot. I test pilot for those guys. And so anyways, use those because they got a side to side. So in the end, if you're off like this, say you're off like that, that will affect you. You want the string going over the meat of the sensor, just like you see here. This is perfect't done, and it's a perfect application. And you can expect that because these single coil pickups, these single humbucker pick guards put you back to where you're pretty much lined up with the bridge. When you get up in here, that's where things variate a little bit. But I'm trying these mini pickups. They're called mini bass pickups, and I'm trying them on pink. And so pink will have the mini bass pickups, and we'll see how those will work. But as far as the neck goes, once you get up in here, you start narrowing down to the headstock, and you're going to miss your outer sensors a little bit. So you're going to have stronger strings on your neck pickup. So these are pretty much the best way to do them. You can do them in the deluxe mode and you'll be all right. But as you can see, the strings taper. So if I was to move this pickup up here, I'd be kind of carved in on it. But better to be in than out. I'm not sure what's going on there. Hello to you. Oh, I bet you hear me now. Wow. That's a little punchy. But I hope I was able to inform you of things you probably didn't know about. And let's see here. Let's turn that back. Make sure all that hissy's coming from. There we go. So we get rid of the hiss and the piss. We'll get downtown. Come on. They're just fun to play. And yeah, you can play these in a band situation. In a studio situation, I probably wouldn't. But as far as going to an open jam and carrying in your guitar case and then you open it up and they see this, it's pretty funny to watch that. Because yeah, this will fit in a regular hard case, a Stratocaster hard case. So they're great for open jams, right? Thank you. I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about it. This thing is kicking off pretty good. I answer a lot of questions all day long about it. And this is what you're looking to make, you know, and don't try to overthink it and don't try to overdo it. Just make sure it's pretty, right? Like it's got a nice coat of paint, because otherwise you got to paint it. And if you got to paint it, well, over the course of time, unless you can paint as good as this, it's just going to look bad. But the whole point is to be able to get done with it in 5 or 6 hours and have an instrument that looks like this. And it's doable for 150 bucks. You might get this guitar for 20 bucks. I bought it as cheap as $20, but expect to spend about 50. Try to make sure it's all wood. This is an all wood body. It's not, you'll see it here, it's not plywood or veneer. They just sound different. You need everything going for you on these. And actually, lighter the better, because they become really buoyant and bouncy and gurgly, because, well, it's a smaller frame, and so the resonation through a lighter wood is more acoustic, to put it in simple terms. I've been building guitars for probably almost 5 years now. I've experimented with all kinds of stuff. I have a ton of guitars. I don't play any guitars that I haven't made myself, or at least customized. And so I know what I'm talking about. It's based on experience of doing it. Yeah, look at the action on that. That is nice action. You can pound on it. So they're pretty stiff. And by the way, I used acoustic bass strings on this because I wanted the gold hue. In reality, they're just, it's basically, instead of brass, stainless, or whatever else, what other materials they use. This is a bronze. So it's wrapped in bronze. But as you can see, it doesn't really have much bearing on it. So if you're using a gold accessory, I like to use the bronze strings. They look cool, right? Especially right there. And so I'm really proud of this one. I do sell all mine. Like, I'm not going to keep this. I sell it so I can make more. And if I'm in at 150 and it takes 5 or 6 hours, I sell them for about 300 bucks. And so this one will sell for 300. And it'll make somebody a great little mini bass. I'm waiting for the cover. Like I said, my order got screwed up and sent to the wrong place. Otherwise, this would already have the cover on it, and it would be on OfferUp and Let Go and Craigslist, which is where they fly. And I'll tell you who likes them. Guitar players love them because they're essentially a guitar. So if they're laying tracks, they can, you know, whatever. intonation. I'm like, I had it intonated, but then I dropped the bridge down immensely and to get some cool action out of it. And anyways, this is it. This is the end product of what you get when you build one. They are not rocket science. You'll see I overdid my pick guard to where there's a bigger gap down here than there is up here. I don't care. I don't care. No one else will either. And that's all I can tell you about the mini bass made out of a Stratocaster guitar. You guys take care.